sports where passion meets precision. As I'm your host Ed, diving deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. And in this video, I'll be reshaping the WWE Women's Division heading into 2026 with some ideas that I came up with that I think will work perfectly and really help put more effort into the women's division. And really, any division, whether it's the women or men, could use reshaping going into next year because a lot of stuff is starting to get stale within WWE. So I'm gonna go through all the divisions, and I think we need to actually have divisions like a tag division, world title division, stuff like that. So I'm gonna explain all of that, and to get some names out the way. So Zoe Stark and Piper Niven are likely out all year, so their names won't be included in this with their injuries. So prayers up to them, hoping they recover as fast as possible from those injuries. But I'm gonna just assume that they're both out for the year, so we don't really know much about Piper Niven's status, and we know Zoe Stark tore her ACL. So just gonna assume those two are gonna be out for the entire year. Naomi, it's unclear when she'll return, obviously due to pregnancy. I'm gonna assume SummerSlam. That's what I'm gonna project. Bianca Belair, I'm gonna assume Royal Rumble. I heard the stuff about the finger injury. I think that's false, just so they can have her come back and then have it be special. So I think she returns at the Royal Rumble in 2026. Now some other stuff that I got to get out the way before I break down. Well, actually, as far as divisions goes, we're going to have the Women's World Heavyweight Division on Raw and the Women's IC Championship Division on Raw as well. No titles are going to be changing. So you got the WWE Women's title on SmackDown and the WWE and the Women's US title on SmackDown as well. So you still got the NXT Women's Championship and NXT North American Championship on NXT. And then the Women's Speed Championship will include WWE, AAA, and TNA. It'll include those three. And then the Women's Tag Team Division will include Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So we got that clear. Now, for other stuff, so everything makes sense in a second. It's going to be a few trades, a few call-ups. So we're going to have 6 call-ups to the main roster and 2 call-ups to NXT from Evolve. So it's going to be 2 Evolve talents going up to NXT, and it's going to be 6 NXT talents going up to the main roster. It's going to be 2 trades, and it's going to be 6 returns. And they are not going to happen at the same time. It's going to be different. But obviously, I already talked about the Bianca return. That's going to be at the Royal Rumble. That's what I'm projecting. For the first trade, Raw is going to trade Nikki Bella for Michin and B-Fab. This is actually going to turn out to be one hell of a deal for SmackDown because Bria is going to return sometime in March. Nikki Bella, she's going to be left alone for the next 2 months because she won't have Stephanie Valkyrie anymore. They probably would have told that story already anyways, but Nikki, she'll be on her own for 2 months on SmackDown. Then Bria come back in March, and then that's when the Bella twins will finally reunite. Liv Morgan is going to return. When? I don't know, but once she, hopefully around the Royal Rumble, Liv and Bianca being the 2 Rumble returns would be amazing. Then that's when you can tell the story of the Judgment Day splitting up. Liv eliminates Raquel in the Royal Rumble, then Roxanne eliminates Liv. So that's going, when she returns, that's going to start to break up the Judgment Day. Carly Bright and Kendall Gray, I've seen some of the stuff they've been able to do on Evolve, so I would have them get caught up next year, have them go from Evolve to NXT, because NXT is going to be losing people, so you're going to need a few people from Evolve to get called up. Then I would have Lola Vice and Jada Parker debut on Raw as a tag team. We've had I remember me, Black Couch Rage, Man Rage, we had conversations about this and how one could outshine the other, which is a valid point. But I think thinking back to the way that Becky and Charlotte debuted when they came up together and was behind Paige, I think you could tell them, it don't even got to be a story similar, but you could do something similar like that, because you don't really have that 4 horsewomen for NXT. Like you had Bayley, Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte, and then Bayley was the one that got left behind in NXT, while Sasha, she was with Team Bad, had Becky and Charlotte teaming with Paige. And since you don't have that 4 horsewomen, I think with Lola Vice and Jada Parker, they had a chemistry. They got the presence, whether that's in the ring, social media, really whatever they do together, they display really good chemistry. I think you could establish them as one of the top tag teams on Raw, since you don't have anything to do with them on NXT, since they keep losing so Like they're always in these high positions but keep losing matches. I think it'd be good for them to debut together and be a tag team for a few years, because if you want to establish the women's tag divisions, which I'm going to talk about more in this video, you have to have actual women's tag teams, and you release most of them, but you got to let them build this chemistry. Like they'll show a good chemistry, like I said, teaming up, or if they're opposing each other, have them be a tag team. Let's say in 2026 they debut on the main roster together as a tag team. Have them win the women's tag team championships 3 times, and then in 2030 they get separated through the draft, which we need a draft again, so we can do more shakeups like this. They had them get separated, and the way that they meet back up is in 2031 when they're both in the Queen of the Ring tournament and they advance to the finals. I'm thinking hella far in advance, but that'd be the easiest way to do a mutual split without having either one of them turn on each other. Have them be a tag team for a few years, about 4 years, have a good tag team run, become one of the best women's tag teams, and then they finally meet in the Queen of the Ring tournament. That's how they meet up with each other again in 2031, and you have Jada Parker win. And even if you have Lola Vice win, it's not going to hurt the other one, because they both going to be in the Queen of the Ring finals at the end of the day. So I don't think you can go bad with whoever you have win that match, but that's what I would do. Have them come up as a tag team and have them be that for a few years to establish them and establish the women's tag team division. And then I would also call up Lash Legend to Raw by herself. Jordynne Grace and Kalani Jordan should be called up to SmackDown. As there are 2 of the 3 women to win world championships. Blake Monroe's the other one, being the AEW Women's World Champion. And Jordynne Grace is a 3-time Knockouts champion, and Kalani Jordan is the current Knockouts champion. I would have both of them get called up and go to SmackDown. And then the next trade I would have happen, Raw would trade Alpha Academy along with Maxine Dupree for Aleister Black and Selena Vega. I think this Aleister Black, Damian Priest feud has ran its course. I think it's time for some change. And I think Aleister Black being on Raw would actually be cool, because he's been on SmackDown since he came back. So change it up going into next year. And then for NXT, I'm expecting Rizzo and Brinley Reese to come back at some point. And next year, when doesn't really matter, but I'm expecting them to come back at some point. Now that I've got all that out the way, I can talk about the divisions. And I'm gonna start with the speed division, since this one doesn't matter too much. But I would just have two TNA women, 2 NXT, 2 AAA, 1 SmackDown, 1 Raw woman for the women's speed division. Because I feel like you could actually make stories with the speed championship, but since it's if you have it between TNA, who you're partnered with, and AAA, who you own, I feel like that can make the possibilities endless for who could be the women's speed champion. So in that division, the 2 TNA women what we'll put in there is Danny Luna, since she doesn't really have much going on. Like, she probably won't win the Knockouts championship, but her being in the mid card working with WWE a little bit could be cool. And Alyssa Edwards, who's been a champion in TNA before. I know she's been a tag champion. Forgot if she's been a Knockouts champion or not. But I think that could be cool, especially since the system have been on NXT before. Like, the system had Moose, whether that's Moose, Alyssa Edwards, JDC, like they've been doing stuff. So I think keeping somebody from the system involved with WWE would be cool. For the 2 NXT women, I went with Carmen Petrovic, because I have her in a different division as well. But for the speed division, it's just really whoever, because Sol Ruka was the North American champion and speed champion, which I didn't mind, because you have Bella championships. So it's like, if you're going to keep these championships, at least have more women involved. So Carmen Petrovic and Thea Hill is 2 women I went with, because in the other divisions that I had them in, I don't think it's realistic that they actually win those titles. But they can be in the title picture, but I think it's more realistic for them to win the speed championship, and that'd be something cool for either one of them. For AAA, La Hydra, I think that's her name, Mr. Iguana's partner that just lost the tag titles with each other. I feel like she had a good presence. I think she'd be cool doing some stuff. Her and Lola Vice might have a match at some point. So, and then the other AAA woman I went with was Lady Flamer. Really just off her presence, because I don't know much about Lady Flamer. I think I've seen a match or 2 of hers. So I think that could be cool to just have a few AAA women in there. Maybe even have La Hydra win it, while Mr. Iguana is still flirting with Lola Vice, whatever they're doing. And like, at this point, Lola Vice won't be in NXT anymore, but you still gonna have stuff you can do with Mr. Iguana. Maybe even it's another woman involved in this. For the one SmackDown woman, I went with Alpha Fire because obviously Chelsea Green and Alpha Fire, it seems like they'll still be a tag team, which I'm gonna get into in a second. But Alpha Fire getting some work in NXT because she's a good singles wrestler. I think that could be cool. While having her still be in the tag team division, getting some more runs in the singles division just for the Speed Championship. She don't got to win it, but being in some of those tournaments, that'll be solid. And then Kairi Sane, she's just fast, so I feel like this would be a great environment for Kairi Sane to work in. Like whether she wins it or not, maybe even Asuka pushes her to win the Speed Championship. Like I think that'll work out really well. And those are the 8 women I will go with for the women's Speed division. And since I mentioned tag teams, I'll cover the women's tag team division next. For the women's tag team division, as I mentioned, Lola Vice and Jada Parker on Raw. I think having them there for a few years could really establish them and get them super over as a babyface tag team and become one of the best women's tag teams ever in WWE history. For NXT, like I said, I would call up Carly Bright and Kendall Gray and have them be a tag team since they've been doing that and involved. They've been cool with each other. I know Ren Sinclair, Kendall Gray, and Carly Bright. I got something different for Ren anyways. But Carly Bright, Kendall Gray, they'll display good chemistry. So have them be one of the 2 NXT teams that's in the title picture for the women's tag team championships. And for the women's tag teams, I have 3 SmackDown teams, 3 Raw teams, and 2 NXT teams. And then it's one of the SmackDown teams I have is Chelsea Green and Alpha Fire. I think one thing WWE needs is a bit more consistency instead of having women fluctuate, or as wrestlers in general, not just women, but fluctuate between so many different divisions. Like establish them, have them be in this one specific division for, it don't got to be the whole year, even though I think that'll work well, because it gives more people more opportunities if you're on that one division for a whole year, and you can move up power rankings. I think that's the most effective way to do it. But Chelsea Green and Alpha Fire, that's what I would do with them, because Chelsea Green doesn't have the momentum at the moment to be in the World Championship picture, even though she has the character for it. But I think right now, just have her and Alpha Fire team together, at least heading into next year, and then if they split, then that just happens. But we've had enough turns already, I feel like, and enough teasers of turns. Like, you're not going to have an actual turn. There's no point in teasing it so consistently, especially with the men, who this video isn't about, but it's been hella teasers of Jey Uso, is he going to turn heel? And then it's like, CM Punk, I'm going to help you, Uso. So it's like, and I fear that they're going to do that with the women's division. Like, we don't even know what Jada Parker really is, which is why I say debut Jada Parker and Lola Vice as a face tag team. Because we don't even know what Jada Parker is, but the fans love her. So, Chelsea Green, Alpha Fire, one of the SmackDown teams. NXT, I would still keep Fatal Influence together. I don't think it's no need for them to split going into next year. I will keep it rolling. They've been through a lot together and even added Laney Reed, so I say keep that going for a while. You don't got to drag it out too long, but at least till the summer, have them as a team, and then they could even win Fatal Influence with, they could even win the tag titles together. Because Fallon Henley and JC Jane, they can win the tag titles while Laney Reed goes after a different championship, which I will cover, but I'll say that for. And then if the Bella Twins, like I said, with Brie coming back, that's what I would have her there for. Had the Bella Twins on SmackDown, become the top tag team there. On Raw, I would keep Io Sky and Rhea Ripley together. I don't think it's a rush to put either one of them in the world title picture again, because you got to take chances on other people and have different feuds and different stories that you're willing to tell. So I wouldn't rush to put them back in the women's world title scene now. When Rhea comes back, I would still have her and Io do the tag team thing. When Rhea comes back, have Io acknowledge that we had good tag team chemistry. We got the win at a Crown Jewel, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think we could be tag champions. Have them do something like that. And even if they have a short reign, that's just going to add to their legacies. Them having a tag title reign for 2 months. Like they're already mutual friends, so why not expand on it even further and have them go to the tag titles and add legitimacy to the women's tag team division. The Kabuki Warriors, I say keep together. I don't think I need to really explain that one. They're the best women's tag team that WWE has to offer at the moment. And so I would say keep them together. I can't see the triple threat with Io happening. Just keep the Kabuki Warriors together for a bit longer, because I think Kairi Sane gonna fall in line. So let that fully play out. Maybe Asuka and Kairi Sane have a one-on-one match, and maybe Kairi Sane turns on Asuka when she gets fed up. But they'll be great as women's tag champions as well. I think all these teams would, and there's a lot you could do with these teams. And the final team in the women's tag division is Charlotte and Alexa Bliss. I don't think you need to split them anytime soon, because I think when you split them, then that's just going to hurt the women's tag team division even more. This is why I say you need consistency to really establish these titles, because they aren't giving them enough stories. They had a match with Bayley and Lyra, which was a good match. It was a good main event. They didn't give it a story. It had 3 days of build, and that whole build was through social media. We didn't see most. We seen 2 segments, but majority of the build came through social media. So it's like they're not giving them actual stories. So what's the point of splitting them? So give them more stories. Have them feud with some of these teams. Even have an NXT team be the ones to upset them for the titles. Maybe Kendall Gray and Carly Bright win the titles from Charlotte and Alexa, and then Jada Park and Lola Vice, they the ones to beat Carly Bright and Kendall Gray for it. Like, you don't gotta rotate like crazy, but you do need consistency in tag teams that are there, because you have so many men's tag teams that they stay together for a while before they split. The Usos, the New Day, like these teams were together for over a decade before they finally split. So do that with the women's tag team division. I think even the Kabuki Warriors, I think the Kabuki Warriors are the longest tenured tag team in the women's division. So you need to establish, if you're going to keep these women's tag titles, really establish a division and have teams be together for longer than 6 months. Like, keep this going, and then after 2026, then you can tell the story of Charlotte and Alexa splitting going into 2027 for WrestleMania 43, and that's going to be in Saudi Arabia. So you can have that feud in the afternoon, do something like that. I think that's the simple. I think that's the best way to do it. Now for NXT, for those 2 divisions, for the NXT Women's North American Championship division, I would have Laney Reed in there. Like I said, with Fatal Influence, Fallon Henley and JC Jane, they got the most experience, the most chemistry together. So have Laney Reed try to win a singles championship, because the other 2 didn't accomplish that already. So they can try to win tag gold again, while Laney Reed tries to get her first singles title. Nikita Lyons, I think, even though people got their different opinions on her, I don't think she needs to be an Evolve. She's not that. I don't think she's terrible. She's alright. I think she could be in that scene. Even if she don't win the title, I think she could still be in that scene. Brinley Reese, when she comes back from injury, a perfect spot for her to go. Carmen Petrovic, this is who I was referring, the other division I was referring for her earlier. I think she could be in the Speed division and in the North American division, how Sol Ruka did. She don't got to win either one of them, but just having title matches. Maybe she do win one of them. Yeah, and then the 3 women that's already in that scene, I would keep there with Blake Monroe, Sol Ruka, and Zarya. Since you already have a story, like, you're going to have to tell that story of Sol Ruka and Zarya splitting soon, and whether that's coming up now or a few months down the line, keep them in that division. Maybe even have a triple threat involving Blake Monroe for the title. I think that'd be something cool, because you don't got to fast shot somebody to the world title scene immediately. Like, Blake Monroe's doing great with the mid-card championship, or in the mid-card in general, since you just won it. But keep her there and establish some of these mid-carders in NXT, because everybody can't be in the main event scene. That's just not realistic. And since you already got the story, you don't got to drag it super long. But then you could have a Sol Ruka versus Carmen Petrovic again. I think they've had a match before. You could do Zarya versus Laney Reed, Blake Monroe versus Nikita Lyons. Like, you have different options that you can do throughout the year. And it's not like you just got to, as soon as you lose the mid-card title, you got to be fast-shotted to the main event. Because simply put, everybody can't be in the main event. And you need to establish the mid-card. Because it's still stuff that Shawn Michaels isn't doing great. And I think there's a few women that I called up that I think could do better on the main roster. And then for the NXT Women's Championship division, obviously Tatum Paxley, she's still the champion, so I keep her there. She don't got to hold it the whole year, but maybe she lose at the first pay-per-view to start the year, or the first NXT. But I would have Illy Dane be in that picture. Even if she doesn't win it, like, her and Tatum are going to have a match. She's going to turn on her. I think that'd be something cool. Thea Hale also put in here, because I think she could be somebody as well that's in 2 different divisions, just doing cool stuff. She's doing stuff with Joe Hendry, which I don't know how to feel about it. Maybe it's good, because Joe Hendry has a crazy social media presence, but I think you could put her in the world title scene for the NXT Women's Championship. She don't got to win it, of course, but just having different matches. I'll put Rizzo there when she's back from injury, and Ariana Grace. I think you could tell a nepotism story with Santino being her dad, with her Santino getting her these different opportunities in NXT and TNA. I think that's an easy story to tell. And Kelly Armstrong and Tyra May Steele, two strong black women. I would put them in there as well. Kelly Armstrong, the LFG winner. No, she came from Evolve. Tyra May was the LFG winner. So I had him there. And just don't do the Olympian thing with Tyra May. Please think of something else. But that's what I would put in the NXT Women's Championship division. And now to get to Raw for the Women's Intercontinental Championship division. I would still have Becky Lynch being there. Like, I don't think it's no need to put Becky Lynch in the main event right now when you have other women talent you can utilize and make new stars out of. So I would have Becky remain in the mid-card division. And then with B-Fab and Michin, as I mentioned, they got traded. I would have them split and just go their separate ways because they feel like they can't do much more as a tag team. So even though they got traded together, they're going to be going their separate ways, but both trying to win that IC title. So B-Fab and Michin, they can be in the #1 contenders match to determine who faces Becky for the IC title. And then Natalya, I would have in that division as well. I guess it's how you add legitimacy to the mid-card division. You need some of these top names, or well, I'll get to the other top name in a second, but keeping a Becky Lynch in there, even if it's non-title feuds, like she don't got to lose the IC title, then go right back to the main event. Like, it's still stuff she could do in the mid-card. There's still feuds and stories that she could tell. And then Roxanne, Raquel Rodriguez, and Liv Morgan, I would have their feud in the mid-card division. I think because Roxanne could be a great IC champion, but what if Liv is the one to beat Becky for the IC championship? That'd be a great story. Liv and Becky, two main event talents, fighting for the mid-card championship. And it's not like that would hurt anybody if Liv Morgan won it, because Roxanne could take it off of her. Raquel, Roxanne, and Liv Morgan could have a triple threat because it plays into the story. Like, once Judgment Day splits, it's no need for the women in Judgment Day to be a team anymore. Liv and Raquel have already made history as a tag team. Raquel looks like she started a group now that Liv is out. And then tell that triple threat story. Have maybe Liv is the one to beat Becky for it, but you also beat Fab and Michin, and they get more opportunities this way. And then Liv loses the title to Roxanne Perez at WrestleMania or at SummerSlam. Like, even if you go away from the story and revisit it, and I say WrestleMania because you don't want it to drag too long like Liv and Rhea. But you have different options here. You could do Natalya versus Liv Morgan. That'd be a callback from about 9 or 10 years ago. You have different options by keeping two main eventers in the mid-card division for the year. And it's not like they have to be directly in the main event. Because when it comes to the Women's World Heavyweight Championship division, Stephanie Valkyrie, she's champion. I would keep her in there. And once Naomi returns, I'm assuming at SummerSlam, have her go right back to that World Championship division. It wouldn't make sense for her to come back and try to win any other title than the one that she had to give up due to her pregnancy. So have her come back and go right after that title, whether she wins it or not. It wouldn't make sense for her to come back and not go after that title. And then with Zelina Vega being traded here, I would put her in the Women's World Heavyweight Championship division as well. And there's stuff you could do with her and Aleister Black. Aleister Black just beat a former World Heavyweight Championship. So while the Men's World Heavyweight Championship is still on Raw, half him got to that title. He don't got to win it. He might lose to a CM Punk or a Braun Breaker or whoever's having the title. But he beat a former World Heavyweight Champion and Priest. So got to that title with that trade. Lyra Valkyria, I'm expecting her to be elevated to this scene. Same with, and I think Bayley will be here too. I think Bayley and Lyra would have split by this point because I think their tag team story needs to end soon. So I had them. Maybe they have another match in a #1 contenders match where they meet in the Royal Rumble or something like that. I would have them both going after the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. After they've lost so many tag team matches together, they realize they can't do this no more. And maybe Bayley finally turns fully heel. And then you do Bayley versus Stephanie Valkyrie. That could be a good match. You do Lyra versus Ivy Nile, who I think Ivy Nile should be in this division as well. And then I think she can put on some good matches and tell some good stories. Then the last woman I put in the Women's World Heavyweight Championship division for Raw is the other woman I called up in Lash Legend. I think once she debuts, she can be in that scene immediately. She shouldn't have to be in the mid-card scene, in my opinion. I think with the dominant force that she is, Lash is great, a great heel. I feel like you could easily slot her into that women's world heavyweight championship scene. Maybe her and Naomi have a match. Maybe they team up to take some people out, and well, Royal Rumble can't happen because Naomi will still be pregnant. But maybe they team up in some type of elimination match, and then they're the last two. It comes down to them. Like, there's different stuff I feel like you could do with all 7 of these women in this division. And then finally SmackDown for the Women's United States Championship division. Obviously Julia, she's still champion. I think she needs to stay in there for the next year because she hasn't done enough, and they simply aren't giving her enough to really prove how much she can do. So she needs to stay in there a bit longer. With the Alpha Academy trade I referenced earlier, I had Maxine Dupree in there. Maybe that's how she finally wins the mid-card title. I would have Kalani Jordan and Jordan Grace debut and go into that women's US title scene. You could continue their feud for a little bit. Like, I didn't see last NXT episode, so I don't know what's next for Kalani. But that's something you could revisit. They had a good match. You could revisit that in a #1 contenders match on a triple threat for the U.S. Championship. Both former world champions, but I think them going into that women's U.S. title division would fit them perfectly, especially the Jordan Grace if she was to beat Julia, and then Kalani Jordan was to take the title off of Jordan Grace if she got another one up on Jordan Grace. And then with the Y6 still being there, Nikki Cross has her in that division. She just scared off former women's U.S. champion Chelsea Green in a segment, so why not have her in that division? The Y6 are tag champions already, so have Nikki Cross wrestle, because she can wrestle. She became world champion as Nikki ASH, so which I probably prefer that character over this current one. But have her be in that division, whether she wins it or not. And then Nia Jax, I would also put her in there. Nia Jax doesn't need to be in the world title division, but she also doesn't need to be in NXT doing nothing. So have her try to go after the women's U.S. champion, try to look dominant. She could be one of the best women's U.S. champions, because she's a phenomenal heel. So I feel like she would do a great job with that title within that division in general. Maybe her and Jordan Grace could have a match. But yeah, that's who I would put in the women's U.S. title division. Then for the women's championship division on SmackDown, I would keep Tiffany there. I know she just lost, and I'm not saying she got to win it back or get another shot, but just if you have a power ranking system, you could keep her there. And I think maybe she's in the elimination chamber with a chance to fight for it. She still loses, like in a #1 contenders. Maybe she has a chance, or she gets eliminated in the Battle Royal by Kiana James. So I think if Kiana James and Julie are still doing the partnership angle, like, they don't got to be a tag team. They could just be mutual friends. Kiana James could be a good person in the main event. Kiana James and Tiffany Stratton could have a good match. And Candice LeRae, they're not doing much with her, but I would put her there. You still got DIY on SmackDown. Have Candice LeRae do something more than the mid-card, because she can. And sure as don't have her doing anything on NXT, you could keep her on SmackDown in that main event scene, and have Bianca come back and be in that main event picture. Because when Bianca comes back, I don't see a world where she goes to the mid-card and wins the U.S. Championship. That doesn't need to happen. You have Jade, who's your women's champion now, who I didn't think I mentioned, but Jade and Bianca, that has to be the WrestleMania match. And Bianca don't got to win the Royal Rumble for that to happen. There's ways for it to happen without her winning the Royal Rumble again, which I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I think Bianca and Jade, that has to be the WrestleMania match. That they have to be the top 2 stars of that SmackDown women's main event scene. And then from 2026 to 2027, and this is a big if, but if Trish Stratus agrees to an actual final run, not just random appearances, an actual final run from a Royal Rumble appearance to one more championship win, I would have Trish Stratus have a final run from 2026 to 2027. It don't even got to be a retirement tour. It don't got to, because after this ain't a retirement tour, I don't trust WWE to do that. But just the final run in general to start 2026, and then the end of that SummerSlam 2027, I would have her be in that Women's World Championship scene and do what it takes to finally win one more women's title before she's officially ready to retire. because I think that's also going to help when you have injuries to Zoe Stark and Piper Niven, who would also be, which that also sucks because Zoe Stark and Piper Niven would be great to be in some of these divisions, but with the injuries, that's just unfortunate and probably not going to happen, assuming that they're out all of next year. But that's how I would reshape the women's division. I would have different divisions, have a power ranking system, and the more wins you get, the higher up you climb on the power rankings. I think it's WWE. It's something WWE should employ. Like, obviously the storylines are important, but have that plan to the storylines. Like, if Nia Jax should just beat Jordan Grace and Kalani Jordan in back-to-back matches, she should move up on the power rankings. Like, it should be, like, when you have random matches, it's like, these matches don't serve a purpose. Have a random match that serve a purpose. Like, if Candice LeRae and Kiana James, two heels, if they're having a match, have the winner move up on the power rankings and the loser move down. And then for the women's tag, this is for all the divisions, the tag divisions as well, the NXT, SmackDown, Raw, like they could all wrestle against each other. Like, make NXT an actual third brand, at least for them. Or if you don't, even if you want to consider developmental, have NXT teams, make it seem realistic that they can win the tag titles. Like, give them actual stories and have it happen on big events like a SummerSlam, like a WrestleMania, like when the NXT team is getting a shot at the titles. But build it up. Like, build it up like if Carly Bright and Kendall Gray are facing Rhea Ripley and Io Scott for the tag titles. Give them a month to build so we can know so more people can know, oh, who are these women that are getting called up? Who are these women? What are they going to be able to do? Have something like that. Make that happen. But this is how it would reshape the women's division for 2026. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, comment what y'all thought, and share for others to see.